Good evening, everybody. Today's December 16th, 2022. This is a special meeting of the Mayor and Common Council Borough of Flemington. This special meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of December 16th, 2022 was noticed to the public at 1 p.m. on December 14th, 2022, posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall and on the Borough website on that date. In addition, a copy of this notice has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Borough Clerk. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
One nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Oh, there we go.
Ms. Hand? Absent. Mr. Johnston?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Ms. Rossetti?
Here.
Ms. Tilly?
Here.
Ms. Driver?
Here. I have a very short, I do have one thing to report. On Monday evening, I made a mistake when I announced the environmental committee appointments. It was a copy paste error on my part. So those appointments are Trent Levitt for the 2-year term, Jess Hand for a 1-year term, Freddie Maia for a 1-year term, and the alternate is Jay Hoff. So that just corrects the record on that, and I apologies to all involved. That brings us, are there any council member reports?
I guess I have one because I have questions about this whole agenda. Like, there's stuff on here that I'm not sure what it is for, and I thought we had executive session on some of this stuff, and I didn't realize we were voting on resolutions this meeting. So I don't know. I know these are resolutions, so we don't get council comment. So am I using my council report as comment section?
You can always comment on stuff when it hits the floor, when it's moved, just like any other meeting.
All right.
Okay.
I have no
Anyone
comment.
else? Okay, anyone else? Is there any public comments? If you're online, I see we do have somebody attending online. You can raise your hand by clicking the raise hand icon. And I believe there's somebody in the audience if there's any comments.
Yeah, no comments here from Borough Hall.
Okay, and I don't see any hands going up. That
Do we
brings us to,
Do we get to see who's in the audience?
It's Brian McNally.
No, it's me.
No, you're here. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, it is.
Marcia Caro is here at Borough Hall.
Wonderful. Thank you.
brings us to our regular agenda, very short.
Do we need to do the minutes?
No, the minutes aren't ready. Those will be
I
approved by
see,
you
sorry.
guys in 2023.
Got you.
First up is resolution 2022-252, authorizing release of a portion of cash bond in exchange for a surety bond of BSD Flemington Apartments LLC. Could we have a motion?
Johnson will move.
Is there a second? Anyone?
Sorry, I can't get my mute off this time enough. Parker, a second.
Thank you. Kara, can you explain what this is?
I'll explain. Yes. So the BSD apartments, which I often refer to as the Spice Factory building, they had posted their performance bond completely in cash just to get, because they just wanted to be able to start getting their building permits, because it can sometimes take a little bit to get a surety bond in place. And so now they want to replace that 100% cash bond with a surety bond for the 90% portion, as they're entitled to do under the borough ordinances and the municipal land use law. And so this will allow them to do that, get the 90% of their cash bond back, post that surety bond. This will be subject to my review of the bond to make sure it's in proper form, as well as the engineer's review of the bond to make sure it's in the proper amount as well.
Any questions? Michael, go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes,
It passed.
Next up, resolution 2022-253. This is a change order authorizing change order number 7 dated December 9, 2022 to the contract with Delane Contracting for existing water tank improvement project. This is not what we talked about in executive session regarding the water tank. Could we have a motion?
Rosetti will move.
Johnson will second.
Any comments?
what is this for then? Because it wasn't discussed in the DPW meeting.
I have the same question too.
Was. Mike, do you have a copy of the change order handy?
Yeah, I can grab one. Just give me 1 second.
I have it right here. There were unforeseen utilities. This is on packet page 6 starts there. Unforeseen utilities while excavating for a planned wet tap connection. Additional buried utility lines were uncovered which were not indicated on the contract documents and which required additional exploration and hand excavation. Number 2, restraint rods for vertical piping. Piping inside the new building includes vertical pipe exposed above grade. To ensure redundant forms of restraint, the contractor was directed to install restraint rods at these locations. Number 3, furnish and install pipe stands to adequately support the exposed piping located inside the water utility building. The contractor was directed to furnish and install pipe support stands at various locations. Number 4, material price increase for the generator. Finally, following the finalization of the contractor's purchase order with the generator supplier, the cost of the generator being furnished for this project was increased by the manufacturer. Number 5, material price increases for steel building. Again, prices went up after the bids were opened. Material price increase for tank paint. Again, prices went up after the bid was opened. And this was associated with an increase by the paint manufacturer following, and it reflects the premium and cost of the paint coatings from time of bid opening to time of purchase. Number 7, additional receptacle for at elevated tank. The owner requested a receptacle be installed at the base of the elevated tank for possible provision of heat trace element to prevent freezing of exposed sample taps. And also conduit and communication cable between the SCADA panel and the well house. There was additional, and the original plans by the original engineer, there was no conduit size material indicated, and there was no indication of the wiring. So this is to actually connect the two items together, which was left off of the original plans by the original Borough engineer. The price went up for these items, increase $56,688.11.
Thank you.
And the borough engineer did review all of the receipts, the proposals from the contractor, and he approved it on his end.
Gotcha. And what I just read came from our engineer. Any other questions? Go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes,
Pass.
Got it. Next up, resolution 2022-254, appointing Earl Hutchins to the Community Emergency Response Team. Can we have a motion?
Tilly will move.
Johnson will second.
Kim, you want the Cliff Note version?
We have somebody that was interested in joining the CERT team. Mr. Hutchins, he's also a state police dispatcher. So we're welcome to have another member added to the team if council sees it fit.
Excellent. Any questions or comments? Go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Parker,
Definitely, yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly,
Yes,
as part of the CERT team.
thank
Next
you,
up
everybody.
Thank you. Resolution 2022-255, amending resolution number 2022-24, authorizing emergency purchase pursuant to New Jersey State Statute 48 :11-6, an emergency appropriation for construction services related to the Borough Police Department. If we could have a motion?
Long will move.
I'll second.
And as you all may remember, we declared an emergency as it related to the state of the police department. And our project manager had put together the bare minimum requirements to get the police department moved over to 200 Main Street. We had a contractor, March Construction, interested in the job that we had spoken to. When it came down to it, they could not comply with certain requirements of the local public contracts law. So we had to go with a different contractor. And so our project manager solicited 2 quotes. This was the lower of the 2 quotes that came in. But the good news is I believe, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the chief of police had authorized some more monies that we had set aside in a bond ordinance that was going to be intended for some police equipment. He authorized it to switch it over to get the police department up and running. So we have enough funds in the 2 bond ordinances mentioned in the resolution to cover the costs of this work.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. There were 2 ordinances where money was allocated by a vote from the council, but has not been appropriated. So that frees up the ability to use the ARP money, which we were hoping to orient towards the police department. So that's what will take care of the additional amount above. Remember, we had set 165. This amount is 314. That amount is not to exceed 314. The project manager feels confident that we can bring that figure down. But we do need to have that not to exceed figure on there.
And
It's Murray Concrete, and they do a fair amount of county work, and so they're authorized by the state.
And Mike, they can mobilize pretty quickly. When do you hope to start? If this is awarded tonight, when do you hope that they can start work?
The expectation is the beginning of January, the first week of January. That they may be able to do a little pre-construction work right towards the end of December, but you know, it's the end of December, so.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to the project manager from CME, David Coates. He really did a good job putting this all together and making sure that this work could start as soon as possible. So he got all the proposals together and got us all the documents so that we could get the police department moved sooner rather than later.
Yeah, he had talked to 3 contractors. We've got quotes from 2 of them. One of them just could not mobilize a quote quick enough for the process.
And I just want to clarify that this is the minimum mandatory requirements to get them in this building.
Right. And that is
Okay.
also, we're guided by the local public contracts law. Because we declared this an emergency, we can only do the bare minimum to address the emergency, which is getting the police department up and running at 200 Main.
Yeah, and I'll also explain that there are other elements that have to happen before they can move in. But because of the timing, things like the network cabling, the bullet resistant film for the windows and doors, and the surveillance and security equipment will be able to go through a normal bond. They're going to be less than $44,000 a piece. So we'll be able to go through a quotes process for that. But I feel I would rather have that process than have them under the emergency appropriations process. I think it's a little bit more fair.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, it's, just let me be clear on this. So we will be able to pay for this. We'll be able to have the money for this.
Yeah, so yes, we have the money for this. It's been certified by the CFO. We also have the money that we can do those 3 projects I told you about, which will total up to just roughly around $90,000. Additional items like furniture, any overages in the cost of construction, and so on. We may need to utilize the money from the FCUR that's been referenced earlier, the 169,000 that would be owed to us once we vacate 90-100 Main Street. But that will get into the next item on the agenda, so we can have a discussion about what that amendment to the lease agreement will look like.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Do you want to call the vote?
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker, Tony, you're on mute.
Yes, yep. Yes,
Okay, Ms. Rossetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly,
Yes,
okay, passed.
Next up is resolution 2022-256. This is a resolution amending the lease agreement for 100 Main Street, also known as the police building, between the Borough of Flemington and Flemington Center Urban Renewal LLC. Could we have a motion?
Johnson will move.
Rosetti will second.
Mike, can you,
Sorry, I was muted.
Mike and Tara, can you
Yeah.
talk about this, please? Because you guys worked on this, I know, all day.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this.
2 days ago, yesterday.
Yeah,
And
this was
today.
necessitated by a few things that have changed recently. The 3 big items is, in order for FCUR to continue their construction on the building and the Union Hotel project, they need to, at some point, disconnect the electric, disconnect the sewer, and dig up a portion of the parking lot. So we needed to amend the lease to account for those 3 things. One, obviously the police department, they want to make sure that they maintain access to the parking lot, even if they can't use a portion of it. And Mike will work with Chief Rotella and making sure that there is enough places that they can store the police vehicles, et cetera, that, you know, once they're losing a portion of that parking lot, they will work out those logistics. With regard to the electricity to the building, FCUR has said that they will provide a generator, and then the police department's generator will be used as a backup, that they will provide a generator that will provide sufficient electricity to the building to allow them to maintain their operations. The more difficult aspect is the sewer. So that is going to involve our team and FCUR's team getting together and working out a solution to this, because under, obviously, the ADA, the barrier-free subcode, we're required, it's a public building, we're required to provide accessible restrooms. And additionally, under Department of Corrections regulations, we're required to provide restroom facilities for detainees. And so any alternative restroom facilities that are provided have to meet all the requirements of those laws. Additionally, it has to be a safe environment for the officers, that they can transport detainees to and from those alternative restroom facilities. So that's what we need. This allows the chief, Mike, and FCUR's team to work out a way to make that happen. And then additionally, in this amendment, we are changing the method by which, the timing by which we get our lease vacation payment. The $169,000 that the borough is entitled to when they get out of the building, because we would like to use that money to make improvements to the new police department. It would be better if we got that money sooner rather than later. Right now, the borough will not get those funds until they've vacated the building completely after 30 days. We are amending this to provide that once we give them notice that we're going to be out, we'll give them a 30-day notice that we're going to be out of the building. And once we provide that notice, they will pay us that $169,000. And then that money can be used for additional improvements to 200 Main. So those were the highlights of what we're doing. And additionally, I did include a indemnification and hold harmless paragraph about this. So if the borough experiences any damages associated with the fact that they have to cut off electricity, cut off the sewer, cut off access to a portion of the parking lot, if we incur any damages as a result of that, or if they fail to provide those services, we're entitled to be indemnified and held harmless for any damages that we face as a result of that.
Okay. Michael, the latest update of this agreement is in which email? The one
The latest email,
from 4/20?
yeah, it would have been after the 4 o'clock hour, yes. Yeah, so, the
I think
previous
it was the
one
last
stated
one that was
something.
sent, right? I think it was the last one that was sent, because I'm looking at it now.
Okay,
The last one was sent, if you see one that says, that talks about a March 20th date, that is the incorrect one. This one should be talking about, should not have that language in it.
Yeah, it should be a 30-day notice provision that we give them
Yes.
notice. They pretty much immediately give us the payment that we're entitled to.
but where did the liquidated damages come from? I was in a meeting last Friday with him and that was not mentioned.
That was, so again, this is from a business perspective. FCR needs assurances that if they're paying the borough the $169,000, that we're actually going to get out of the building.
Yeah, I should explain that, before we were able to identify, the funds from our own budget, we needed to go to, Jack Cuss and ask him for the $169,393 in advance, which he was willing to do. But with a caveat that we have a deadline, and that if we exceed the deadline, that there would be liquidated damages. In essence, it would be sort of like $500 a week rent for the facility until we got out. But when we found there was not a necessity for that anymore, which just happened within the last 24 hours, we no longer needed that $169,000 immediately. So we no longer needed that provision.
Right, but what this is saying is that when we give him that date that we're going to terminate the lease, that we've got 30 days to, what is it?
Yeah, we still included the liquidated damages if we don't abide by our own self-imposed deadline.
But what if we have supply issues or something that we're not aware of? Now we're going to be penalized for that?
Kim, that's a good point. Council can approve this, subject to a revision that would state that the borough will not be liable for liquidated damages in the event that a delay is caused by circumstances outside of our control.
Yeah, I would feel good about that personally.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
more-
if
I
we're,
think a force majeure clause would be adequate.
I'm more comfortable approving this with that type of language added.
I
than
agree.
Than just saying this is the date we're leaving and then
yeah, we gotta,
something
Yeah,
happens.
and when we target the date, I mean, we're not, the idea here is that, we're giving 30 days notice on really an end date that would be like 15 or 20 days out,
Okay.
which gives us a buffer.
So when is the actual, do we have an actual end date? Do we have a move-in date?
No, I don't think we will know until the work actually starts on the building.
On the building, the new building?
On the new building, correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
we haven't
so-
got the
so
contract, yet.
assuming-
The contract will help dictate.
Okay. Okay, but assuming that he's, let me ask my question, please. Assuming that that what I'm hearing is that January, the contract is targeting for January to start the project, correct? I mean, if all goes well, he's starting the project in January. Has he given any indication of how long it's going to take him to retrofit the building on the bare minimum? I understand that, but has he given any indication of how long that might take?
Yeah, the project manager is predicting that this could possibly be completed by the second week of March. But that's his calculations, not the contractors. He has talked, the contractors have toured the facility. They have the specs and the design elements from the architect. They have an idea of what's needed. The difficulty always is that a building that we don't know what's behind, ceiling tiles and
Right.
wall
Right.
units.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel confident that Mike and David, our project manager, will not give that 30-day notice until they are absolutely 100% sure that we can get out in the 30 days.
Absolutely. You don't give it until the work is substantially.
Right. And I'm confident in Mike and Dave and their ability to work together and not give that notice until they are absolutely 100% sure that the borough will be able to get out within that 30-day window.
Yeah, no, I would think that would happen. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. I would hope
I have
that
another
they're
question.
projected that They're just kind of getting in. Isn't it like more like if it's like 30 days out and you know you're going to get done within the next 30 days that you can move in? Isn't that what this is all about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
It's kind of like
idea,
building a house, right? Mhm.
the idea would be that we would be able to bring the money in case we need the money, which I would say probably 10 to 20% chance. We still would have to purchase furniture and equipment for in there. We are bringing some of the items over, but it's not enough to outfit a police office correctively. Also, there may be additional materials that we may have to buy that were not on the immediate list, but will be needed once they move in. So this allows for that. My feeling is that we'll actually, when we're 20 days out, we'll call for the 30-day notice. That way we won't hit any penalties.
And then did somebody confirm with Chief Rotello he's okay with the limited access to the parking lot?
Yeah,
Michael, you spoke with him?
yes, I've spoken to them several times.
Okay, thank you.
I spoke with him also, Kim.
Okay, thanks, Betsy.
When is that supposed to take effect, limited parking access and the sewer and the electric shutoffs? Like, is there any chance we could be out of there before that, or is this more imminent?
I think it's more imminent. We don't have an exact date because again, I think it's dependent on their construction schedule. But I think it is fairly imminent. I would say by early January. Mike, is that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, the issue is for them to figure out the workaround for the sewer. As Tara had mentioned, we are not going to have our police officers taking a detainee outside into an unsecure environment, both for the safety of the officer and also the safety for the detainee. So we have to find a way to make that work. The electric is a little easier because we can secure a generator that can diesel generators that can sustain 2 or 3 months of work. So that would be the delay. But what has necessitated this Councilman Tilly and Councilman Long heard some of this last Friday, that the determination has been made from the engineers for the site for the hotel project that they need to work on both phases at the same time instead of working and completing phase 1 and then going to phase 2. So that necessitated the need for access to as much of the current property at 100 Main Street as they can work on.
And what sort of necessitated us to do this lease agreement today rather than say at the first meeting in January is because I anticipate that the restroom issue is going to require some planning. That's not something that they can just implement tomorrow. So this gets everybody together to plan for this, because I do not think that is going to be an easy answer. It is going to require borough representatives and FCR's engineers to really get together and come up with a good plan that not only follows all the regulations, but also protects our officers.
Any other questions or comments? Michael, go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly,
Yes,
pass.
Okay, so could we next have a motion to amend the agenda to add in the COVID? It's basically a summary. It's like 1,000 pages that Brian McNally put together as to how we responded to and dealt with COVID in our community. It can be used as a guidebook for in case we have a public health emergency again in the future. As you all know, when COVID came along, there was no book to guide us as to what to do. And so we kind of had to figure it out as we went. So could we have a motion to amend?
Tilly will move.
Johnston will second.
Okay, could we have a motion to adopt? Michael, I don't know what the number would be.
It's 2022-257.
You got to take the roll for the motion to amend.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Can we vote on the motion to amend? Thank you. Friday night, I've got plans coming up. So I'm trying to get out of here.
I get it. Okay, go to vote now.
Call the motion to amend.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly.
Yes,
Okay, pass.
Got it.
Tilly will
Uh,
move.
Thank you. We have a
Rosetti will
second?
second.
Thank you. So as I told you what it is, it's just kind of a guidebook and kind of an outline as to how we did. I imagine a lot of emails and all that. So, and I appreciate Brian McNally putting that together. And then Brian McNally was just a superior OEM coordinator, and I can't imagine going through what we dealt with COVID with anybody else in this borough. He really was able to figure it out, work with others, talk to others on the OEM side to keep this community safe. And then the fact that he did this on his own to put this guidebook together is just just speaks to his level of commitment to both his job as OEM coordinator as well as his commitment to this community.
And I think I've told council before, in some other towns that my firm represents, when we had OEM coordinators with questions, I actually was referring them to Corporal McNally because he was just so organized and so good. So this, I have no doubt that this book is going to be an invaluable resource to the borough in the future.
He also actually, worked with the FEMA, filing all the FEMA paperwork, and I'm sure it's all in there. And we got reimbursed for virtually every single dollar we spent on the COVID response. So previously, oh, hey, Brian, do you want to speak?
Oh, there he is.
I mean, it was all in that letter that was attached to it. You guys know
Right.
where it stands.
Yeah, the fact that he was also then to get that the FEMA money back, when we had other community emergencies in this community, prior OEM coordinators did not bother with seeking FEMA reimbursement, and so that was a huge change for us, and I'm thankful for that, and the taxpayers should be thankful as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll ditto everything the mayor said. I mean, I don't think this community realizes how truly fortunate we are to have Corporal McNally, not just as a police officer, but as OEM coordinator too. So I want to thank you, Brian, for all the work, the hard work that you've done for this borough.
Yeah, and I want to jump in again, thanks, Brian. And when this thing hit, we were all, council members, mayor, we were all like, what do we do? What do we do? And you were definitely a guiding hand, a good authority on this. So thanks. And it's good to see that just thinking about all that, looking at where we're at now, we've adopted some of the strategies to use during COVID, but we got Borough Hall open and things have gotten better. And just wanted to point that out. It's been a long road, and Brian, you did good. Thank you.
Any other comments? Go ahead and call the vote.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Rosetti,
Yes.
Ms. Tilly,
Yes.
okay, pass.
Great. Is there anything else, Michael? Did I miss anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that brings us to our second public comment session. If anyone has a comment they'd like to make.
Oh, here's, there's a camera here if you want to be seen.
Good evening, Marcia Paris, 61 Elwood Avenue. First of all, I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. I also just want to bring to council's attention, I'm sure you were thinking about it during the whole course of the conversation, that back in July, the mayor made public comments about buying the police building. That included that it was not going to cost the public anything, that it was going to be reimbursed from the American Recovery Act money, which has already been pledged and spent for the sewer work, and also for the sale of 90 to 100 Main Street, which is now being discussed for construction and furniture. All of that funding is going to have to be made up. And it's very disappointing because we still don't have prices to do the entire building to get the police department in there. I hate to be the voice of doom and gloom, but promises were made to the public and to all of you, to the 6 council people. And it's just disappointing, but happy holidays. I hope you all have a safe and healthy holiday and a very prosperous and healthy and safe 2023.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Tilly will move.
Rossetti will second.
Okay,
Have a good
Andrew,
holiday, everybody. We'll
all
see you
four?
soon.
Yes.
Aye.
Right.
All right.
Okay, anybody against? Didn't think so. Okay, we adjourn.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful Christmas, everybody.
Happy holiday,
holidays,
everybody.
Happy Hanukkah, happy
Happy
everything.
holidays.
Enjoy.
Yeah. Happy holiday.